The 2025 San Antonio Brahmas have officially missed the playoffs. That's right, despite making it to the championship game last year, the Brahmas are one of the first two teams to be eliminated from playoff contention this season. Them, along with the Showboats, have been eliminated. When St. Louis got the victory over Memphis, it both eliminated Memphis and San Antonio. Now, San Antonio, this one wasn't really shocking to see. Whereas Memphis, it is sad to see this San Antonio team is not as much because of the fact that this team itself is a very weak team. They have been clearly the weakest team in the league. They have put up less than 10 points in not one, not two, not three, but 4 games. 9 against Arlington in week 1, 9 against St. Louis in week 2, 3 against Houston in week 5, and 3 against Birmingham in week 6. Just pitiful. And their defense has been even worse. Aside from their one win in week 4, they have allowed over 20 points in every single game. That is pathetic. And that is why their point differential is so low at negative 85. Almost twice as bad as the second worst team being Memphis. It's just insane how bad this team has been. But there's a lot of reasons to it. One of the big ones is, of course, the coaching dilemma. So during this season, you had a lot of stuff happen. You had A.J. Smith end up stepping down very early into the season, with reports coming out that it was because of certain overall control stuff, how they wanted the offense to be run between him and Wade, that he disagreed with, and he left. Then, of course, Bryson Elaine ended up saying some stuff on Twitter that made him look really bad, and was a bad look. And then Peyton Pardee came in, and since Pardee's took over, they did put up 3 overall solid offensive performances compared to the 0 A.J. Smith gave you the last 2 and last 3 if you count the championship game last year. Wade Phillips himself, still not with the team. Basically, a couple days, like about a week later after the A.J. Smith whole announcement and all that, Wade Phillips took a leave of absence. Again, he's been dealing with health issues, and he was gone. So now Peyton Pardee has been this interim head coach for the past pretty much like 4 weeks. As because even 1 week it was before Wade Phillips ended up not being there, and it wasn't really said exactly. It was a weird situation. But just like with the Showboats yesterday, their head coach is no longer with the team. Again, this one is not official, but it is pretty much viewed by most people that we expect Wade Phillips to retire because of the fact that he still isn't back with the team, but we'll see. Now, another big issue with this team was the Kellen Mond signing. This was a big issue that I brought up heading into this season. When you looked at their roster objectively, it looked incredibly weak at the quarterback position outside of Mond. Jared Garantano was somebody who had negative hype last year and somehow lived down to it. Then Kevin Hogan, he looked okay in the bit, and admittedly, he's looked solid, not great, but solid for the Brahmas. We haven't seen enough of him to view him as great, but this game against DC was pretty solid. Kellen Mond, though, he was the main starter, and he was not great. He was insanely mediocre, and then he kind of just fell off a cliff 1 week, and that opened the door for eventually Kevin Hogan to become the starter. This signing has backfired immensely. At least with the Roughnecks, they were able to get away from it quick enough to still be alive in the playoff race. And though it is entirely possible they get eliminated this weekend if they lose to Michigan, at least they found their quarterback a bit earlier in Jalen McClendon versus the Brahmas, who kept Mond in just too long, but it is what it is. But the biggest reason this team sucked this year, that defense. Oh my gosh. You saw the Memphis vid yesterday. You know how much different that team was last year, this year. This one hurts even worse than that one. Because they went from the best overall defensive unit in the league to by far the worst. Yes, they still have their linebackers playing solid. That's about it. As an overall defense, it is significantly worse than last year. Now, yes, turnover-wise, they're going to be about the same as last year. But compare the other stats. Compare the yards allowed, the points allowed. Last year, they allowed 147 points across the entire 10-game season. We have played 7 games. There's 3 left. They're already at 159. So they're already 10 over last year with 3 games left. Yards per game, worst in the league at 332. Last year, they allowed less than 260 a game. The defense fell off a cliff. They've allowed about 40 more rushing yards this season than last year. Not quite 40, but 30 more rushing yards per game this year than last year. And that's despite this year being a very weak running back year. Right? We talked about it before. Once you get past Jacob Sayles the first 4 weeks and Wes Hills for a week in Toa, the ground game this year has been significantly weaker than years prior. Yet somehow they saw that big of a downgrade from last year. And even passing yards per game. They're allowing significantly more this year. They're allowing over 212. Last year, they didn't even allow 170. It's just a pathetic downgrade from last year to this year. And it's hard to pin it on one person again. Part of it's the Kellen Mond situation. Part of it's the A.J. Smith situation. Part of it is the Wade Phillips situation. It's just a lot of things that culminated to this team being bad and missing the playoffs for the first time in their UFL history and second time overall. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Again, we just did the show Let's Win yesterday, so if you haven't seen that one, go check that one out. And as always, guys, have a great night.
Caught. Marquez Stevenson gets the first down, lost the football.